right. Everybody ready? Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. This is a press availability to talk about the sentencing that occurred today in the case of Commonwealth versus Eric D. Haynes. Eric D. Haynes ambushed, shot, nearly killed a police officer by the name of Giovanni Maysonet a couple of years ago. He lived, but it was close. He probably only lived because his partner, Officer Michael Couch, grabbed him, took him, got him to the hospital very, very quickly. Some of you may remember this case. I remember this case from when I saw the video because it's an ambush. This is a situation where Officer Maysonet is not expecting any particular kind of trouble, and Eric D. Haynes reached into the pocket of his hoodie, waited in a calculating way, and fired shots at Maysonet through his own hoodie in order to make sure the weapon was concealed and no one was on guard. One of the bullets struck the vest. The second bullet struck Officer Maysonet just below the bottom of that vest and has caused multiple operations, years of suffering, and physical rehab that continue even now. Haynes pled guilty, and he has been sentenced today. Jeff Hushnowski, who is, as many of you know, a very accomplished homicide attorney and also one of the supervisors of our homicide non-fatal shooting unit, is going to stand in for the prosecutor who prosecuted this case. Her name is Allie Neville, but she could not be here due to other obligations today. But Jeff Hushnowski is going to go through the details of the case, and he is going to also get into specifics about the sentence and how it was rendered by the Honorable Diane Anhalt. I do want to say this, though. You know, this is just one more reminder of the danger that Philadelphia police officers suffer, the danger that they endure, the potential for harm that they can suffer at any time. If we are going to have even-handed justice, then we are, in an even-handed way, going to have to make sure that anyone who's going to take a shot at a police officer is going to have the appropriate, just, and very substantial consequence of the type that we are seeing right here. I'll have a couple more things to say, but right now it's my pleasure to introduce Jeff Hushnowski to get into the details.
Thank you, Larry. Good afternoon. Back on February 8th, 2023, at around 3:30 in the afternoon, Officers Maysonet and Couch conducted a car stop in the area of 200 North 60th Street here in Philly. The passenger in that car was the defendant, Eric Haynes. Officer Couch approached the driver's side. Officer Maysonet approached the passenger side. The defendant was seated in the front passenger seat, and it was during that car stop, during that initial encounter, that the defendant started to become very nervous and agitated, which raised the alarm of Officer Maysonet, who had the foresight of removing him from the vehicle. And it was during that removal of the vehicle, as Officer Maysonet had the defendant against the back of that car and was attempting to do a pat-down, a frisk, a safety frisk, that this defendant engaged in an evasive behavior. He kind of turned, bladed his body, and while he was doing that, reached into the hoodie pocket of his jacket, where he, unbeknownst to Officer Maysonet, he had a concealed firearm he was not licensed to have. He then fired from that pocket multiple times, striking, as Mr. Krasner said, Officer Maysonet multiple times in the abdomen area, one of which hit his vest, and then I believe one or two shots underneath, causing significant internal damage to Officer Maysonet. Officer Couch did return fire. The defendant was able to flee, but if not for the heroic actions of his partner, Officer Couch, Officer Maysonet may not be here, or his injuries may have been more significant. I truly believe that Officer Couch saved his life that day, and it's depicted on the body cam, his heroic actions. So he should absolutely be commended for that. The detectives and police officers obviously flooded that area. They did their investigation. The defendant was arrested a short distance later that same day on the 6800 block of Geyer Street. where he was in a vehicle attempting to flee. He did have the firearm that was used in the non-fatal shot, excuse me. He had that in his possession. It was a 9mm. Defendant did enter a guilty plea. We charged the defendant with multiple counts of firearms offenses, including attempted murder of the police officer Maysonet. The defendant entered a non-negotiated guilty plea to firearm offenses, resisting arrest, and attempted murder. And he was sentenced today by the Honorable Judge Anhalt to a total sentence of 22 to 44 years. He was sentenced to, I believe, 18 and a half to 37 years on the attempted murder charge, and then 1 to 2 years on the resisting arrest, and then an additional 2.5 to 5 on the gun charge, possessing a firearm by a felon, all to run consecutive to one another. I know that present at the hearing was Officer Maysonet, that did give very impactful victim impact statement to Judge Anhalt. His family was present, his girlfriend, his mother, his brother. A lot of police officers were present in support. I believe Officer Couch was also present. And I know that the family was very appreciative of the work that Ms. Neville did. She's a fantastic attorney and did a great job on this case. Very appreciative of the work that this office did in prosecuting this case and getting this case resolved. The family was very appreciative of Judge Anhalt and the sentence that she rendered. I know that the police officers present were also happy and satisfied with the outcome of this case. There's a long road ahead for Officer Maysonet, but I'm happy to report that he is physically making improvements. He is up, he's walking around, he's not quite back at work yet, but it's still a long road ahead that he is, but he's doing better. He's also doing better. Obviously, when you go through something like this, there's a mental aspect to it as well. That's something that he's going to be dealing with for quite a while, but he's also progressing there, so he's doing well. So I do want to thank the police officers who were involved, especially Officer Couch, the detectives who were involved, who did a fantastic job in investigating this case. I want to thank Ms. Neville, who did a fantastic job of prosecuting this case. And we respect and thank Judge Anhalt for handing down an appropriate resolution.
Just a couple more words, and then we'll go to Q&A. I think we should all acknowledge, recognize, I don't even want to say celebrate because it's the wrong word, but we should all acknowledge and recognize the heroism of Couch and Maysonet. I think we should remember them. I think we should realize that officers going to work face this danger, fear this danger, as they should, every day, and that fortunately these two survived, that they are heroes, that what they did is heroic, and they deserve that recognition. It is not too long ago, I was actually with their captain, Captain Lawrence Noble, who is not only celebrated by his fellow officers, but by the community, because he is so community-oriented in the area where these two officers do their work. This has been a very, very rough patch for these officers, and I hope we get some closure with this today. Are there questions? Channel 6.
What was the officer's reaction to the sentencing?
Do you want to address that, Jeff?
Yeah, I believe I spoke to Ms. Neville. He was okay with it. Obviously, nothing's ever going to undo what this man has done to him and how his life has now changed, both physically and mentally. But I believe that my understanding was that he was okay with the sentence that was handed down.
Channel 29.
He was the shooter. Was the other driver charged with it?
Yes. So He was charged, so that driver, whose name escapes me at the moment, was arrested and charged for obstruction of justice and related charges. The vehicle that was used in this case was ultimately moved because when Officer Couch, after the shooting happened, Officer Couch's focus was on Officer Maysonet and getting him to safety, so they kind of left the vehicle and the driver at the location. The defendant had fled on foot. I believe we ultimately did charge him with fleeing, obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, related charges for moving the vehicle.
Were there other people in the vehicle as well?
I don't recall if there were other people in this particular, there may have been a female in the back, but I don't recall specifically. It's been a while since I've reviewed the file itself, but I don't believe anybody else other than the driver and Eric Haynes were charged in this case.
And is there like about a time frame when officers making that will come back?
Unfortunately, no. He's had multiple surgeries to fix the internal injuries that he sustained. I know that he is up. He's moving around. He was able to attend court today. He was able to give his victim impact today, but I don't think there is a time frame in terms of if and when he'll ever be able to come back.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Hey, I'm good.
This is a general question for the community and even the police. The feeling more for the community. The authorities say the statistic is decreasing about crime, about shootings, but the feeling of the community is not the same. Can you send any message to the community? How is your office working?
In Spanish or English? Okay. Esta oficina trabaja cada día, todos los días, para asegurar la seguridad de la comunidad. Vemos los números están mejorando, pero tenemos que recordar que no son números, son seres humanos. Y por eso vamos a trabajar duro cada día, cada día, cada día, para mejorar la situación y la seguridad de la comunidad. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
You said in English, you were very emotional about it, that they are heroes. Could you talk a little bit what you mentioned in English?
En español.
Sí.
Oh, man. Let me get on my, no. Ok, estamos aquí a discutir dos policías, Giovanni Maysonet y Mikhail Couch. Son dos policías que son héroes, de veras. El policía Maysonet sufrió una herida bien seria, casi grave, cuando el defendante Eric Haynes disparó y casi le mató. El policía Couch le salvó y por eso los dos, en mi opinión, son héroes y tenemos que celebrar nuestros héroes. Además, quiero decir que su capitán, Lawrence Noble, debe de tener orgullo sobre lo que hicieron estos dos y el hecho de que sobrevivieron. Es muy importante que celebramos el heroísmo de estos policías. Okay? Anything else? We're good. All right, thank you very much.